Ophelia on Uranus is the best Tellurium farm in Warframe. In this guide, learn why Ophelia is the best activity for farming Tellurium, and find out which Warframe, weapon, and companion are best for Tellurium farming. Plus, learn important tips for the process, like whether you should farm Ophelia in Steel Path or on normal difficulty. Hey everyone, it's Spopes. Tellurium is a vitally important resource in Warframe that nonetheless can be quite difficult to farm. You'll need it as an ingredient when constructing a wide variety of different warframes and weapons, but without the right approach, getting your hands on enough Tellurium will be either very expensive or very difficult. Tellurium has a base drop rate of just 0.2%, which means you'll have to on average kill 500 enemies just to get one drop, and it does only come from enemy kills. But in this guide, I'm going to explain how to get Tellurium with maximum efficiency, so you can stack it up with basically no effort and have plenty to craft whatever you want to craft. We're going to start by covering 6 different ways you can get Tellurium, ranking from the best to the worst. And then from there, I'll go into tips and tricks for how to maximize your Tellurium gains, using the right weapons, warframes, companions, and buffs. So why is Ophelia on Uranus the best Tellurium farm in the game? Well, first of all, you can get Tellurium on Ophelia because it is technically a submersible mission. Tellurium drops from enemy kills when you're in either an Archwing or a Railjack mission, plus the Kuva fortress for some reason. So because Ophelia is technically a submersible mission, Tellurium does drop here. However, almost all of the map is above ground. During this farming process, you do not go into the water at all with your Archwing. You just go around this relatively low-level survival map, slicing enemies to bits, and using Nekros as Desecrate to maximize your gains. In my experience, you get 1 Tellurium on Ophelia around every 5 minutes. Of course, it does vary. Sometimes you get more, sometimes you get less. But compared to your other options, that is a relatively high drop rate. The main reason for this is there are lots of enemies, and they go down really quickly. That's also why I don't suggest you run Ophelia on Steel Path, but we'll get more into that later in the guide. One other reason Ophelia is a great Tellurium farm is it's relatively easy to unlock. You just need to progress in the star chart until you get to Uranus, do a few missions on Uranus itself, and then you'll be able to access Ophelia. Plus, you can get carried here by another player if they invite you to their party. So as you can see from this gameplay footage, enemies on Ophelia go down really easily with the right build. All the buffs you can get from your companion and from your weapon type apply. It's repetitive, basically AFK gameplay you can do while watching TV or listening to an audiobook. You'll never be in any real danger. You basically just hold the melee button, run through the map, and collect your Tellurium. So yes, we'll get more into how to do this properly later in the video, but I do want to cover your other options first. Tellurium does also drop from enemy kills in Railjack missions. This is from any kill, whether you're in the Railjack, flying around to your Archwing, or you've boarded an enemy craft or base. However, survival missions with Corpus enemies are the best for this. With the survival mode, you basically spend all your time on an enemy vessel, making it similar to any other survival match. You get to have your companion with you, use your Warframe's abilities, etc. So Railjack is a relatively good farm for Tellurium in theory at least. However, after spending more than an hour in different Railjack missions, I have yet to find a single Tellurium myself. The whole idea you can get it here at all is just based on research. I've not been able to prove it myself. While in an average hour of farming Ophelia, I'll get anywhere from 10 to 15 Tellurium. The other issue with Railjack is that to get to the good nodes, you have to progress through a wide variety of different missions first. Railjack missions require a lot of prep work unless you come with a full squad. You need to hire a crew, invest in the right components, level up your intrinsics. So there's a much higher barrier to entry for this farming method, with, at least in my case, no confirmed results. I did want to throw this out there though, because the community generally believes that Railjack is the second best way to farm Tellurium. Though again, personally, I have yet to see this be the case at all. Tellurium does also drop from Kuva Fortress maps. The best one to run would be Taveuni, however you pronounce that, because it is a survival mission similar to Ophelia. And just like on Ophelia, every enemy kill has a chance to drop Tellurium. However, this method is much less straightforward. It is generally not considered to be a worthwhile Tellurium farm on its own. Instead, Tellurium is just an added bonus while you go around completing the main objective, which is farming Kuva. Compared to Ophelia on Uranus, you unlock the Kuva fortress much later along in the storyline as well, making it an overall unideal option, but still something that should be mentioned. Other endless modes also work for this, including Disruption, but again, the Kuva fortress is not a great option for farming Tellurium, even though it is an option. And then from what I hear, Tellurium can also be a very rare drop from Tier 4 bounties on Fortuna. I have gone here and checked out the Tier 4 bounty a few times myself, Not once has Tellurium shown up as a possible reward, but this is something that the community says is sometimes a reward here. However, even if Tellurium does drop from these tier 4 bounties, the reward pool is heavily diluted with other options, like endo and mods, making this a very indirect way to farm Tellurium, if it ever does show up from these bounties at all, which I have not been able to confirm yet. So again, like the Kuva Fortress, this is not a very good dedicated Tellurium farm, but if you do happen to be doing these bounties anyway, just understand that the community at least says you will sometimes be able to get Tellurium from these tier 4 bounties. All right, we are kind of getting into the weeds here, but there are a couple more options that are worth mentioning. Sometimes in his weekly rotation, Teshin, who you can find in any relay, will offer Tellurium in exchange for Steel Essence. So if you are already running the Steel Path and farming Steel Essence, this can be a good way to use it. But again, this is a crapshoot. You never know when Teshin is going to have Tellurium again. You cannot really rely on this as a farming method. Similarly, Tellurium will sometimes show up as a daily login reward. But again, you have no idea when. There's no way to predict this. And it usually only shows up in quantities of 1 or 2. But yeah, just sometimes when you log in for the day, you might get some Tellurium as your reward, but don't count on it. And then as the final option I want to mention, you can buy Tellurium directly from the Warframe market for 10 platinum apiece. However, this is a really bad idea. 10 platinum for just 1 Tellurium is a very high price. I just want to mention this in case you're completely desperate. You just need like 1 more, you don't want to farm. You can technically go to the market, search for Tellurium, and then buy it there directly. But 10 platinum is a very high price. So those are your options. I do highly recommend just farming Ophelia. The rest of the options are really not that good, except maybe Railjack, but it requires a lot of prep work. Generally, when in need of Tellurium, the community just goes to Ophelia and grinds for, 20-30 minutes. It's the best option at your disposal, unless you want to go to the market and buy it for platinum. So now we've covered all your options, it's time to get into how to farm Tellurium the right way. In the following section, I'm going to go over a basic overview of a good farming build in Warframe, while glossing over many of the details. I do plan to make a dedicated guide on this subject though in the near future, and when I do, I will link it above here and also I'll put it in the description. But first and foremost, you want to have either Nekros or Nekros Prime. Nekros' third ability, Desecrate, causes corpses to drop additional loot. This is a toggle on or off ability that you simply turn on at the beginning of the match and then forget about it, and combined with a mod we'll get into shortly, it should just keep running all the time. With Nekros Prime, you basically just want to make sure that he's going to survive in a level 25 mission like Ophelia, which is not hard to do. Just put in mods like Vitality, Adaptation, Health Conversion, etc. But then much more important than all of that are mods that improve the utility of Desecrate. So for instance, Stretch, which increases its range, Overextended, which increases the range even further, and most importantly, the Nekros-specific augment mod, Despoil. Even Nekros Prime only has 190 base energy, so if you happen to use Desecrate on a large pile of corpses, you'll immediately run out of energy. Despoil, however, changes Desecrate so that it consumes health instead of energy. With the fact that Desecrate will produce tons and tons of health orbs, you do not need to worry about dying, but this augment mod makes sure that Desecrate will be running non-stop as you run through Ophelia. From there, you simply want to make sure you're using a melee weapon with high slash damage. So for instance, I'm using the Cronin Prime here, but basically any bladed melee weapon will work here. I'd recommend Berserker Fury and Reach or Primed Reach, so you can clear lots of mobs very quickly. But aside from that, just make sure it is a slash-based weapon, and the reasoning for this is kind of grotesque, but very interesting. Slashing enemies cuts their bodies into multiple pieces, and then each of those body segments counts as a body as far as Desecrate goes. So if you cut a Grineer in half, for instance, on Ophelia, each of those pieces counts as a separate body that Desecrate can squeeze more loot out of. Now, there is kind of a weird trick with this, where you can use a particular low-tier weapon to make all of your weapons do slash damage. I'm talking about Ripkas, which are not good in themselves, but with a mod called Amalgam Ripka's True Steel, these weapons turn into stat sticks that then cause slash to proc on your other weapons. So you could, for instance, equip Ripkas with that mod, and then kill all the enemies with a fast, clear weapon like Exceltra Prime. But I have not invested in this personally, especially with Ophelia, which is low level. Just running through with Cronin Prime, I'm on PS5, just holding circle and just running forward is much easier. It requires a lot less work in terms of getting the weapon and the mod and everything, but I did want to mention that as an option. Now from there, another very important aspect of your loadout is equipping a Smeeta Kavat as your companion. The Smeeta has an inherent ability called Charm that can have a variety of different effects, including a chance for the rare resource from the map you're farming to drop directly into your inventory. That, combined with Tech Enhance and Resourceful Retriever, allows the Smeeta Kavat to considerably increase your chances of getting Tellurium on Ophelia. Plus, make sure to slot Fetch so your companion can pick up resources automatically. But yes, using a Smeeta Kavat as your companion is well worth it here. I just bred this guy yesterday, and I'm definitely noticing an increase to my drop rates. But speaking of increased drop rates, you should also definitely invest in a drop chance booster before farming Tellurium. The best way to do this is to go to any relay, like the Strata relay where I'm at right now, and simply ask for one. Players at Master Rank 30 or above can bestow drop rate boosters as blessings, so simply enter the chat, go to the relay chat, and ask, "Drop rate boost, please." You may have to ask a few times, and definitely go to a busy instance of the relay, because there'll be more people there. You'll have a higher chance of getting the blessing. Your other option with this is buying a drop rate booster from the market. However, as you can see, these cost a lot of platinum. A 3-day booster costs 40, a 30-day booster costs 200, and a drop chance booster that lasts a week costs 80 platinum. The ones you can get from other players only last a few hours, but it's much better to get these for free. And veteran players love gifting drop chance boosters, I guess because it gives them something to do. Alright, so once you've got Nekros Prime, a Smeeta Kavat, and a slash melee weapon, and your drop chance is boosted, the only question remains, should you run Ophelia on normal mode or Steel Path? Even if you've unlocked Ophelia on Steel Path, doing it on normal mode is definitely the better option. Steel Path does technically have twice the drop rate compared to normal missions, and there's a higher concentration of enemies right from the beginning of a survival mission. However, your time to kill goes up considerably with Steel Path, as do your chances of dying. So in the end, you have a better drop rate for Tellurium on normal Ophelia with a relatively good build. With a weapon like Cronin Prime, you can just fly through with your Nekros, mincing meat. So no, in the end, Steel Path is not worth it. Just stick with normal Ophelia. Lastly, I do just want to mention a couple of good practices when you are farming Tellurium on Ophelia. One thing you can do is politely ask your squad if they are using Slash. You can remind them you're using Desecrate on Nekros, and request or suggest that they use weapons with slash damage so Desecrate works at maximum efficiency. Also, when you do find a Tellurium, make sure to mark it for your teammates. On PS5, for instance, it is the left button on the D-pad. Whichever input you have bound to marking a waypoint, just press it so your teammates will know where the Tellurium is. Unlike other rare resources like Argon Crystals, Tellurium does not show up as an icon on the map of your teammates, so marking it when you find it is just common courtesy. Alright, that's going to do it for explaining how to farm Tellurium in Warframe. Just summing up one more time, normal Ophelia on Uranus is your best bet, bring Nekros or Nekros Prime, turn on Desecrate with Despoil, use a slash weapon, bring a Smeeta Kavat, and also make sure you have a drop rate booster active. With all that in place, farming Tellurium should be pretty easy. And it's never really that easy, its drop rate is pretty low. But you can definitely make it easier or harder, and this guide, my goal is to make it as easy for you as possible. In the comments, please leave any tips and tricks you may have for farming Tellurium. Please leave any feedback you may have on the guide. Let us know if this is your most hated resource to farm, and whether it was made easier with this guide. And also, before you go, please do like and hype the video and subscribe to the channel. And I'd really appreciate it if you could support a step further with a Spokesary membership, a merch purchase, or a donation. You can check out my merch below the video, or go to my fourth wall site to donate, in addition to the option to leave super thanks here on YouTube. I'm so grateful for all your support, but as a follower of Christ, I am even more grateful to God. So I'm going to end the video with a brief prayer to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Lord Christ, thank you for Warframe. Thank you for Digital Extremes and all the hard work they do. Please bless Digital Extremes and the whole Warframe community. Please bless everyone watching this video. Empower this video to help others farm Tellurium the easy way. And Lord, I do thank you for my channel and for making it possible to make this video today. Please do bless my channel and my whole community. Help it grow. Lord Christ, I give you all glory for this video and for my channel. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. Thanks so much for watching until the end. Before you go, please do like, hype, comment, and subscribe. And when you do subscribe, turn on notifications, because I'll be back soon with new content.